when I was a teenager, I always loved fashion and I found it really interesting, and I liked clothes and expressing my style, even from a very young age. So I thought maybe that would be an interesting thing to do. And I also thought maybe it's a way out because you can travel and move around. And so those were kind of my reasons behind it.
You say that you felt you had a natural interest in the fashion industry, but it also sounds like at 5 years old, you had an experience of being indoctrinated into it. You were taken to Mick Jagger's house, and it sounds like you were groomed.
That's so true. Yeah, it's so true. I think it was really, I was groomed for it, because actually I had many interests, and like one of them, you know, I always like reading and studying and things like this, and that was never taken seriously for me. I think they always thought I was really stupid, that the most that I could ever be was like a model or something like that, just for your appearance.
You had experiences with a specific figure who's well known in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
Could you describe what happened and who that was?
I remember going into London a lot to do castings and things like this, and I remember this one particular occasion. It was a fashion shoot and there was one other model there, and it was meant to be like some kind of campaign. First they would take pictures of us. They'd given us drinks beforehand as well. They just told us to drink. They'd put something in the drink.
So it was typical on these shoots that they would tell you to drink.
Yeah. Like in these instances that we were really forced to drink something before even starting.
How did they frame that? Do you remember how they would?
They just put a glass on the table and just said, okay, this will help you, just drink. And then they did this supposed fashion shoot. I remember the photographer, and this would happen a lot with these fashion things, the photographer sexually abused us, touch the models. With this notable person, it felt like...
It's okay to say the name. If you feel comfortable doing that, maybe it would be good to say who it is and maybe begin from the first point that you encountered.
Well, so the person who it is Karl Lagerfeld, and the photographer was there, and he kind of first abused me, touched me, and then I remember almost being passed on to Karl Lagerfeld, which just felt like very strange, because obviously I know who this person is. And
Karl Lagerfeld wasn't present on the shoot, but the photographer abused you, and then you were passed on to Karl Lagerfeld.
Yeah.
And do you remember how that was done? I mean, in terms of, can you remember the transition between the photo shoot to the point at which you were being abused by Karl Lagerfeld?
After the shoot, being taken with the photographer into another room, and then being inappropriately touched by this photographer, and then prepared for Karl Lagerfeld to enter, and then I guess seeing someone that you recognize and who's so powerful and you know who they are, like it just felt like things were being done to you. Like it didn't really feel like I had any control or any power or any say in what was happening.
So would it be fair to say that the photographer on the shoot, in a sense, groomed and prepared you to be abused by Karl Lagerfeld?
Yeah.
Can you remember the nature of the abuse that Karl Lagerfeld subjected you to?
I remember being raped by him.
Maybe it's hard for you to answer, but why do you feel Karl Lagerfeld does this?
I guess because I feel like he's obviously been abused himself at some point in the past, in his childhood probably. I don't know, it's hard to say. Like,
So I mean, you have a sense then, I guess, as an adult, that Karl Lagerfeld, like many other people in positions of power in the fashion industry, were themselves abused and then placed in positions of power in a kind of a hierarchy of abuse, it sounds like. So just as you were taken to Mick Jagger's house at 4 or 5 years old, and you were groomed, and then you were placed in a position of average power where you were modelling things, you were creating a sense of what fashion was and what direction it should take and what people should buy. There were those above you who had also been groomed to abuse you, and then presumably there were others above them who had been groomed to abuse them, and then it would lead back presumably to a core structure of power.
That's what I feel. And I mean, obviously I only really know from my experience, but I think they must gauge your character a bit. I think if you're more obviously this is after many, many abuses. So I think no one is naturally violent or wants to take part in these things. But I think they do see that with some children, like I was never violent. Like I never showed like a violent energy, I think. So it was useless to try and make me into some kind of, because I mean, they train children. Guess he was prepared to take on, like you said, like a quite violent, active role in it. Yeah.
So it's interesting because also in relation to the Jeffrey Epstein case, which is obviously significantly covered in the news at the moment on account of all his connections to people like Prince Andrew, the royal family. It does seem as though we're beginning to get a sense of how the power systems on planet Earth work.
Yeah.
And that is that they put people in positions of power, they invite those people to abuse children, they film them, and then they use the videotape they have of those people abusing the children to control those people because they know it's socially unacceptable to the majority of people to abuse and rape children in that way. We also know now that the modelling industry is deeply connected to Jeffrey Epstein and that he was supplied with women to abuse and presumably to condition in a similar way that you were conditioned and other children were conditioned. Given your account and hearing the accounts of other survivors and knowing what we do now about how the modelling and fashion industry works and its connections directly to sex traffickers like Jeffrey Epstein and paedophiles like Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew, it seems like the veil is being lifted.
Yeah.
It feels like many people are slowly realising, okay, that is how power works. Because if someone turned up on your street and put a gold hat on and said, I'm the king, now give me 10% of everything you own and sing songs about me, people would say, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. That person on the street would last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the question is, why are there people in gold hats in palaces doing exactly the same thing and yet no one is stopping them? Why is no one stopping them? And I think hearing your account, we have the answer. And hearing the accounts of others, we have the answer. No one is doing anything because many, many, many of them were abused as children.
Absolutely.
Or they were abusers, or they were placed in positions of political power, or power in the fashion and entertainment industry in order to sustain a system whereby adults do not speak out forthrightly about royalty, the elite, because they're terrified because they're abused as children.
Absolutely. Like you were saying about with the royal family and stuff, how interesting it is that now I'm starting to see they have their logo everywhere. They have it on food. I even had a hairbrush with the royal crest on it.
Yeah, the royal crest is an interesting one because if you look at it closely, there's a lion representing the divine masculine and a unicorn representing the divine feminine. The lion has blood on its claws and tongue, and the unicorn has blood in its mouth, and the unicorn's crown is around its neck and a chain is attached to it. The divine feminine is in chains, literally in chains, on the royal insignia. I mean, this is the extent to which these powerful groups are rubbing it in our faces, the extent to which they control us. I think it's very hopeful that so many people like you are speaking out now